Good morning. Today we will see unit number 6, rolling contact and sliding contact bearing. Up till now we have completed 5 chapters and 2 chapters objective questions or objective test. Now this is the last chapter. Now in between I will provide you assignments. 5 assignments as a term work. You have to write and you have to submit one project also. Today we will complete that project also. That is pressure vessel design. Therefore, rolling contact and sliding contact bearing. First of all, we will study what is by rolling contact and what is by sliding contact. Rolling contact, you are knowing. Rolling contact means it is known as point contact or line contact, and sliding contact means surface contact. Now, bearing. What is meant by the word bearing? Bearing is its original word is bear. To bear means to support. To bear means to support or to sustain. Therefore, bearing is the part or one element in the machine which is used to support the rotating shaft or which is used to support rotating shaft. Therefore, there are different types of bearings we have seen. Plumber block was there, footstep bearing was there. Footstep bearing is used to support vertical shaft. Then solid booster bearing is there. Therefore, different types of bearings you have seen. You have drawn freehand sketch in machine drawing subject also. Therefore, we will see its theory and related to problems. Now, this is the syllabus. Unit number 6, rolling contact and sliding contact bearing. Number of lectures 10. Now, first rolling contact bearing we are going to see. Its syllabus is types, static and dynamic load capacities, Strybeck's equation, equivalent bearing load, load life relationship, bearing life, load factor, selection of bearing from manufacturer's catalog, ball and roller bearing, design for variable load and speed, bearings with probability of survival other than 90%, lubrication and mountings, dismounting and preloading of bearing. Now, sliding contact bearing, bearing material and their properties, bearing types and their construction details, hydrodynamic lubrication, performance analysis of hydrodynamic bearing by Raimondi by Boyd method, and last is introduction to hydrostatic bearing, introductory treatment only. Therefore, this is the syllabus of this chapter. Now, bearing. Already I told bearing means it is the one element or part in the machine which is used to support the rotating part. Therefore, bearing is a mechanical element that permits relative motion between two parts, such as the shaft and the housing, with minimum friction. The functions of the bearing are as follows. First, the bearing ensures free rotation of the shaft or the axle with minimum friction. Second, bearing supports the shaft or the axle and holds it in the correct position. Third, the bearing takes up the forces that act on the shaft or the axle and transmits them to the frame or the foundation. Therefore, this is nothing but bearing and functions of bearing. Now, bearings are classified in different ways. First of all, depending upon the direction of force that acts on them, bearings are classified into two categories: radial bearing and thrust bearing. In case of radial bearing, a radial bearing supports the load which is perpendicular to the axis of the shaft. A thrust bearing supports the load which acts along the axis of the shafts. Therefore, in the diagram itself, it is shown here. Axis of shaft is horizontal while a vertical force P is acting. Therefore, vertical force P is perpendicular to the axis of the shaft. Now, this horizontal force P, in case of thrust bearing, which is acting along the axis of the shaft. Axis of the shaft is horizontal while the force P is also horizontal. Therefore, This is nothing but radial bearing and thrust bearing. Different components you are observing. Shaft is there, this bearing is there, and this frame or housing is there. Same case is here in case of thrust bearing. This is the frame, this is the shaft, this is the bearing, and this is nothing but collar is there or step. One step is provided in the shaft. Therefore, this is nothing but radial and thrust bearing. The most important criterion to classify the bearings is the type of friction between the shaft and the bearing surface. Depending upon the type of friction, bearings are classified into two main groups. First, sliding contact bearing, and second, rolling contact bearing as shown in figure. Therefore, this is the first figure A indicates sliding contact bearing. See that this is the shaft. Shaft is known as journal in this case. Now, when it will rotate, due to this lubricating oil, due to the friction between different in between the layers of the lubricating oil, this shaft will rotate inside the bearing. This is the sliding contact bearing, and this is the rolling contact bearing. In case of rolling contact bearing, you are observing that these small rollers are there, maybe ball type or cylindrical type or maybe spherical type. We are going to see different types of rolling contact bearing afterwards. Therefore, this is the shaft. It is supported by a rolling element. Means in case of bearing, you are knowing there are different parts of the bearing: inner cage, outer cage. Therefore, in the inner cage, shaft is fitted, and shaft is supported by these rollers, and these rollers are again supported by this outer cage, means outer housing. Therefore, this is nothing but sliding contact bearing and rolling contact bearing. Sliding contact bearings are also called plain bearings, journal bearings, or sleeve bearings. In this case, the surface of the shaft slides over the surface of the bush, resulting in friction and wear. In order to reduce the friction, these two surfaces are separated by a film of lubricating oil. The bush is made of special bearing material like white metal or bronze. Rolling contact bearings are also called anti-friction bearings or simply ball bearings. Rolling elements such as balls or rollers are introduced between the surfaces that are in relative motion. In this type of bearing, sliding friction is replaced by rolling friction. Now, sliding contact bearings are used in the following applications. First, crankshaft bearings in petrol and diesel engines, centrifugal pumps, large size electric motors, steam and gas turbines, and concrete mixers, rope conveyors, and marine installations. Rolling contact bearings are used in the following applications: machine tool spindles, automobile front and rear axles, gearboxes, small size electric motors, and rope sheaves, crane hooks, and hoisting drums. Types of rolling contact bearing. Now we will see different types of rolling contact bearings. For starting conditions and at moderate speeds, the frictional losses in rolling contact bearing are lower than that of equivalent hydrodynamic journal bearing. This is because the sliding contact is replaced by rolling contact, resulting in low coefficient of friction. Therefore, rolling contact bearings are called anti-friction bearings. However, this is a misnomer. There is always friction at the contacting surfaces between the two rolling elements and the inner and outer cages. A rolling contact bearing consists of four parts: inner and outer races, a rolling element like a ball, roller, or needle, and a cage which holds the rolling elements together and spaces them evenly around the periphery of the shaft. Depending upon the type of rolling element, the bearings are classified as ball bearing, cylindrical roller bearing, taper roller bearing, and needle bearing. Depending upon the direction of load, the bearings are also classified as radial bearing and thrust bearing. There is, however, no clear distinction between these two groups. Certain types of radial bearings can also take thrust load, while some thrust bearings are also capable of taking radial loads. The types of rolling contact bearings which are frequently used are shown in figure. The characteristics of these bearings are as follows. Therefore, I am going to explain each and every rolling contact bearing now. Now, first rolling contact bearing is deep groove ball bearing. Now you are observing the diagram. In case of deep groove ball bearing, this is balls are there in between inner cage and outer cage, and they are equally spaced. Now, why this is known as deep groove? Because whatever this ball is placed inside the inner cage and outer cage, how much inside that ball goes, therefore that is known as groove. Therefore, this is deep groove. Therefore, it is press fitted in between inner cage and outer cage. The most frequently used bearing is the deep groove ball bearing. It is found in almost all kinds of products in general mechanical engineering. In this type of bearing, the radius of the ball is slightly less than the radius of curvature of the grooves in the races. Kinematically, this gives a point contact between the balls and the races. Therefore, the balls and races may roll freely without any sliding. Deep groove ball bearing has the following advantages. First, due to relatively large size of balls, deep groove ball bearing has high load carrying capacity. Deep groove ball bearing takes loads in the radial as well as axial direction. Due to point contact between the balls and races, friction loss and the resultant temperature rise is less in this bearing. The maximum permissible speed of the shaft depends upon the temperature rise of the bearing. Therefore, deep groove ball bearing gives excellent performance, especially in high speed applications. Deep groove ball bearing generates less noise due to point contact. Deep groove ball bearings are available with bore diameters from a few millimeters to 400 millimeters. The disadvantages of deep groove ball bearings are as follows. Deep groove ball bearing is not self-aligning. Accurate alignment between axis of the shaft and the housing bore is required. Deep groove ball bearing has poor rigidity compared with roller bearing. This is due to the point contact compared with the line contact in case of roller bearing. It is unsuitable for machine tool spindles where rigidity is important consideration. Now, next type of bearing is cylindrical roller bearing. Cylindrical roller means the shape of the roller is of cylindrical shape. Remember, that's why it is known as cylindrical roller. Cylindrical roller bearing when maximum load carrying capacity is required in a given space. The point contact in ball bearing is replaced by the line contact of roller bearing. A cylindrical roller bearing consists of relatively short rollers that are positioned and guided by the cage. Therefore, this is cylindrical roller. This is inner cage. This is outer cage. Cylindrical roller bearings offer the following advantages. First, due to line contact between rollers and races, the radial load carrying capacity of the cylindrical roller bearing is very high. Cylindrical roller bearing is more rigid than ball bearing. The coefficient of friction is low and friction loss is less in high speed applications. The disadvantages of cylindrical roller bearings are as follows. First, in general, cylindrical roller bearing cannot take thrust load. Second, cylindrical roller bearing is not self-aligning. It cannot tolerate misalignment. It needs precise alignment between axis of the shaft and the bore of the housing. Cylindrical roller bearing generates more noise. Now, angular contact bearing. Now, how to identify angular contact bearing? In angular contact bearing, the grooves in inner and outer races are so shaped that the line of reaction at the contact between balls and races makes an angle with the axis of the bearing. Therefore, whatever I will show, see that here contact is there. This is the axis of the bearing. This is known as axis of the bearing. Therefore, in case of angular contact ball bearing, see that at the contact point reaction will be there. Therefore, at the contact point here, reaction will be there. And if you will extend this, it will make some angle here. Angle suppose theta. Therefore, this since this reaction makes angle with the axis of the bearing, that's why it is known as angular contact bearing. Always remember, in case of ball bearing, deep groove ball bearing, this this is the contact point here. Therefore, load will act vertically at the contact point. Therefore, here load is perpendicular to the axis of the bearing. In case of deep groove ball bearing, load is acting perpendicular to the axis of the bearing. In case of similar case in case of cylindrical roller bearing also, load is acting perpendicular to the axis of the bearing. Load is acting perpendicular to the axis of bearing. But in case of angular contact bearing, load is acting at an inclined position or at an angle theta with respect to axis of the bearing. I will draw here also. Therefore, these two loads are acting at an angle. That's why it is known as angular contact bearing at the point of contact. This reaction has two components, radial and axial. You can resolve this force like this. One is known as radial, one is known as axial. You can resolve like this. Therefore, radial force and axial force. Axial force is known as this horizontal component. Horizontal component is known as this axial force. This is known as axial. And this vertical component is known as radial component. Vertical component is known as radial component. Therefore, angular contact bearing can take radial and thrust loads. Angular contact bearings are often used in pairs, either side by side or at the opposite ends of the shaft, in order to take the thrust load in both directions. These bearings are assembled with a specific magnitude of preload. Angular contact bearings offer the following advantages. Angular contact bearing can take both radial and thrust loads. In angular contact bearing, one side of the groove in the outer race is cut away to permit the insertion of larger number of balls than that of deep groove ball bearing. This permits the bearing to carry relatively large axial and radial loads. Therefore, the load carrying capacity of angular contact bearing is more than that of deep groove ball bearing. The advantages of angular contact bearings are as follows. First, two bearings are required to take thrust load in both directions. Second, the angular contact bearing must be mounted without axial play. Third, the angular contact bearing requires initial preloading. Now, fourth type, self-aligning bearings. There are two types of self-aligning bearings, self-aligning rolling contact bearings. First, self-aligning ball bearing and spherical roller bearing. The principle of self-aligning bearing is explained in the next section. The self-aligning ball bearing consists of two rows of balls which roll on a common spherical surface. In the outer race, see that two rows of balls are there. This is one row, this is second row. This is inside the bearing, that is in the inside of the outer cage. The spherical surface is there, spherical shape is there. In this case, the assembly of the shaft, the inner race and the balls with cage can freely roll and adjust itself to the angular misalignment of the shaft. There is similar arrangement in the spherical roller bearing, where balls are replaced by two rows of spherical rollers which run on a common spherical surface in the outer race. Now this was self-aligning ball bearing. Now this is self-aligning roller bearing or spherical roller bearing. Compared with the self-aligning ball bearing, the spherical roller bearing can carry relatively high radial and thrust loads. Both types of self-aligning bearing permit minor angular misalignment of the shaft relative to the housing. They are therefore particularly suitable for applications where misalignment can arise due to errors in mounting or due to deflection of the shaft. They are used in agricultural machinery, ventilators, and railway axles boxes. Taper roller bearing. Now see that taper roller. The rolling element is having taper. That's why it is known as taper roller bearing. The taper roller bearing consists of rolling elements in the form of a frustum of a cone. They are arranged in such a way that the axes of individual rolling elements intersect in a common apex point on the axis of the bearing. In kinematics analysis, this is the essential requirement for pure rolling motion. For pure rolling motion between conical surfaces, in taper roller bearing, the line of resultant reaction through the rolling elements makes an angle with the axis of the bearing. Therefore, taper roller bearing can take or can carry both radial and axial loads. See that here force is acting like this perpendicular to rolling element. Therefore, if you will resolve this force, this is known as axial force horizontal component and vertical is known as radial force. Radial, and this is known as axial. Therefore, taper roller bearing can carry both radial and axial loads. In fact, the presence of either component results in the other acting on the bearing. In other words, a taper roller bearing subjected to pure radial load induces a thrust component and vice versa. Therefore, taper roller bearings are always used in pairs to balance the thrust component. Taper roller bearing has separable construction. The outer ring is called cup and the inner ring is called cone. The cup is separable from the remainder assembly of the bearing elements, including the rollers, cage, and the cone. Taper roller bearings offer the following advantages. First, taper roller bearing can take heavy radial and thrust loads. Second, taper roller bearing has more rigidity. Third, taper roller bearing can easily be assembled and disassembled due to separable parts. The disadvantages of taper roller bearings are as follows. First, it is necessary to use two taper roller bearings on the shaft to balance the axial force. Second, it is necessary to adjust the axial position of the bearing with preload. This is essential to coincide the apex of the cone with the common apex of the rolling elements. Third, taper roller bearing cannot tolerate misalignment between the axis of the shaft and the housing bore. Fourth, taper roller bearings are costly. Taper roller bearings are used for cars and trucks, propeller shafts and differentials, railroad axle boxes, and as large size bearings in rolling mills. Now, thrust ball bearing. In case of thrust bearing, force is acting along the axis, always remember, or parallel to the axis. A thrust ball bearing consists of two rows of balls running between two rings, the shaft ring and the housing ring. Thrust ball bearing carries thrust load only in one direction and cannot carry any radial load. The use of a large number of balls results in high thrust load carrying capacity in smaller space. This is the major advantage of thrust bearing. Therefore, this is the thrust bearing. The disadvantages of thrust bearings are as follows. First, thrust ball bearing cannot take radial load. Second, it is not self aligning and cannot tolerate misalignment. Their performance is satisfactory at low and medium speeds. At high speeds, such bearings give poor service because the balls are subjected to centrifugal forces and gyroscopic couple. Thrust ball bearings do not operate as well on horizontal shafts as they do on vertical shafts. Thrust ball bearing requires continuous pressure applied by springs to hold the rings together. Thrust ball bearings are used where heavy thrust loads are to be carried, for example, worm gearboxes and crane hooks. Now we will see materials for the roller bearing. There are specific materials for the parts of rolling contact bearings. They are as follows. First, the balls and the inner and outer races are made of high carbon chromium steel, that is SAE 52100 or AISI 5210. It contains 1% of carbon and 1.5% of chromium. The balls and races are through hardened and to obtain a minimum hardness of 58 Rockwell hardness. Second, the cages are made from stampings of low carbon steel. Third, the rollers are made of case hardened steels. AISI 3310, 4620 or 8620. They are case carburized to obtain a surface hardness of 58 Rockwell C. It should be noted that balls are through hardened while the rollers are case hardened. Now we will see next point, selection of bearing type. The selection of the type of bearing in a particular application depends upon the requirement of the application and the characteristics of different types of bearing. The guidelines for selecting a proper type of bearing are as follows. First, for low and medium radial loads, the ball bearings are used, whereas for heavy loads and large diameters, roller bearings are used. Self-aligning ball bearings and spherical roller bearings are used in applications where a misalignment between the axis of the shaft and housing is likely to exist. Third, thrust ball bearings are used for medium thrust loads, whereas heavy for heavy thrust loads, cylindrical roller thrust load bearings are recommended. Double acting thrust bearings can carry the thrust load in either direction. Fourth, the deep groove ball bearing, angular contact between bearing and rollers, spherical roller bearings are suitable in applications where the load acting on the bearing element consists of two components, that is radial and thrust. The maximum permissible speed on the shaft axis on the shaft depends upon the temperature rise in the bearing. For high speed applications, deep groove ball bearing, angular contact bearing, and cylindrical roller bearings are recommended. Rigidity controls the selection of bearings in certain applications like machine tool spindles, double row cylindrical roller bearing, or taper roller bearings are used under these conditions. The line of contact of these bearings as compared with the point of contact in ball bearings improves the rigidity of the system. Noise becomes a criterion of selection in applications like household appliances. For such applications, deep groove ball bearings are recommended. Knowledge of the design characteristics of different types of bearing and proper appreciation of the needs and application enables the designer to protect a proper value of to select a proper type of bearing. The characteristic of the bearing should match with the requirements of the application. Now, static load carrying capacity. Static load is defined as the load acting on the bearing when the shaft is stationary. It produces permanent deformation in balls and races, which increases with increasing load. The permissible static load therefore depends upon the permissible magnitude of permanent deformation. From past experience, it has been found that a total permanent deformation of 0.0001 of the ball and roller diameter occurring at the most heavily stressed ball and race contact can be tolerated in practice without any disturbance like noise and vibrations. The static load carrying capacity of a bearing is defined as the static load which corresponds to a total permanent deformation of balls and races at the most heavily stressed point of contact equal to 0.0001 of the ball diameter. Now, formulae are given in standards for calculating the static load carrying capacity of different types of bearing. However, while selecting the bearings, it is not necessary to use these formulae. The values of static load carrying capacities are directly given in the manufacturer's catalog, which are based on the above formulae, whereas conditions of friction, noise, and smoothness are not critical. A much higher permanent deformation can be tolerated, and consequently, static loads up to 4 times the static load carrying capacity may be permissible. On the other hand, where extreme smoothness of operation is desired, a smaller permanent deformation is permitted. Now, next point is I think Stiebeck's equation is there. Therefore, what we'll do today, just up to this, we'll see Stiebeck's equation and all other things we'll see in the next lecture. Let me write your attendance first of all. Please wait. All of you, please wait.